We are done with DNS and Google Postmaster tool, but now we need to add TLS certificates to Postfix and Dovecot inside iRedMail. If you remember, our certbot script generated a wildcard certificate, which you can use for this too, but let's go and edit the script to retrieve a mail.do-p.com specific certificate. Open getcerts.sh inside certbot directory, copy this section here, and for domain use mail.do-p.com. Save the file. In setup.yml, make sure that only certbot role is uncommented and run Ansible playbook. This took a bit because of that DNS linode propagation seconds parameter. On the VPS, etc let's encrypt live directory now has a new directory mail.do-p.com, and files in that directory are symlinked to the latest files in the archive subdirectory. Now we need a way to share this new certificate, which is on the VPS, with the mail server, which is inside the Linux container. We'll do that by editing the config of iRedMail LXC and adding these two lines. We want to mount mail.do-p.com from both live and archive directories in etc let's encrypt to the same location on the LXC. Save the file and reboot the LXC with systemctl restart LXC at mail.do-p.com. If I SSH to the LXC now and list the contents of etc let's encrypt, I will see that both directories were mounted. Let's make sure that the files are present. These are symlinks, and archive should have the real files. Okay, now we need to edit postfix and dovecot configs and tell them to use these certificates. For postfix, you want to edit etc postfix main.cf, but let's first create a copy. cd etc postfix, then cp main.cf, and then today's date. Then open main.cf in Vim, find TLS settings section, comment out these existing rows, and add these three lines. Save the file, cd into etc dovecot directory, make a copy of dovecot.conf, open dovecot.conf in Vim, find SSL global settings, then comment out these three lines and add these two lines. Save the file, and now we must restart both services. So systemctl restart postfix.service. Same thing for dovecot. If you're wondering why I'm not adding certificate to iRedMail's web server, Nginx, as I said before, the only entry point for HTTP will be traffic, and traffic will hold all the certificates. Let's now create two email addresses, reports@do-p.com, which I specified here in dmarc record, and notifications@do-p.com for receiving information about our VPS and services we'll deploy. You can create new mail user through the command line, but I want to do it through a web UI. There's a problem with that though. For the same reason mail client can't ask for autoconfig, I normally can't access iRedMail admin page. If you read the tips iRedMail provided you with after the installation, and if you haven't, they are in the directory you unpacked the iRedMail archive, right here. you know that the admin page is located at mail.do-p.com/iRedAdmin. If I try to open this page, it will fail. Mail.do-p.com resolves to a public IP address. Interface that has that IP address is on the VPS, and VPS does not have any web server installed on it yet. The only web server is inside the LXC, and we can't reach it over the internet. If I replace this mail.do-p.com with the private IP address of the LXC, I still can't access it. I'll give you a minute to think why is that. The reason I can't access this LXC through this private IP is that my WireGuard config does not have this IP in its allowed IPs section, which means that my computer does not have a route to get to it. It then uses a default route which leads to my home router and then over to the internet, and you can't reach a private IP address this way. I'll open WireGuard, edit this config, find allowed IPs section, and add 10.100.100.1/24. Save this. WireGuard will reconnect. And if I go back to the web browser and refresh this page, it will work. I'll log in with postmaster@do-p.com, and if you haven't saved the password, it's also available in iRedMail.tips file, and click login. To add new mail account, go to add and click user. For address, I will use reports@do-p.com, and remember to use a strong password and click add. I want to add one more user. This one is notifications. Use a different password and click add. Even though we have created mail accounts, we can't yet send nor receive mail. We need to open port 25 so that our mail server can communicate with other mail servers. We need to open port 143 so that mail clients can receive mail via IMAP protocol, and we need to open port 587 so that mail clients can send mail via SMTP. If I try to telnet to mail.do-p.com on port 143, which is Davkot, it won't work. Same thing will happen with postfix on ports 25 and 587. We need to edit security role in Ansible to fix that. Open iptables.rules file in security files directory, and in net table add these lines. Any network packet that has public IP address of this VPS as its destination and wants to connect to the port 25, route it to the LXC's private IP on port 25. That will allow communication with other mail servers. Do the same for port 143, which will cover Davkot, so that end users can retrieve mail in their mail clients. And with port 587, we will allow end users to send mail. These two down here are the same thing, but for when the packets are coming from the inside. For example, we'll have a script on the VPS which will send some notification. When it resolves mail.do-p to a public IP address and wants to connect to port 587, there is no need to leave the VPS. Just go straight to the LXC's private IP on that same port. Save the file, open setup.yml, comment out certbot role and uncomment security role, save setup.yml, and in virtual environment run Ansible playbook again. Ansible has finished. File with new rules was copied to the server, and since there was a change, a handler was triggered for both IP tables and Docker services. we can confirm that it works by running these commands again. This is postfix. 25 also works. And 143 dovecot works. We can now configure a mail client. I'll do this in Thunderbird, but server settings are the same whichever client you plan to use. For email address, I'll go with notifications@diodeshp.com. I will paste my password and click continue. Thunderbird will try to find server settings. For IMAP, it's mail.diodeshp.com, start TLS, which is 143. And for SMTP, it's also mail.diodeshp.com, start TLS, which is 587. Click done. Let's try to send an email. Click write. Recipient will be check-auth at verifier.port25.com, which is a special service which will tell you how your mail server is set up. After a few moments, there's a mail in inbox. And summary of results, everything looks okay. And that's it for this part. You now have a fully functional, properly set up mail server.